Revenge films.
My name is Kelly Smith, and I live together with my husband, Michael. Just recently, we built our dream home together. Having my own home like this had always been my dream since before I met Michael, and I wanted to be able to build it from the ground up. And so, even when I was still single, I was saving up little by little while working full-time. But around that time, I met Michael, and we began dating. We shared the same dreams, and about 1 year after we had been dating, Michael proposed to me. I happily said yes, and soon after, we got married. When we got married, I told him that I wanted to live in my dream home that we designed, and that I also had been saving for it for years. And then Michael said that he also had money that he had been saving up to build a home, and we decided to take the leap of faith. We designed the entire plan for the house, and we were able to build our dream home that was full of all of our ideals. But then one day, just before we were about to import all of the furniture into the house, the two of us were inside of the house admiring our newly built home. And that was when, as we were on the second floor, suddenly we felt a ridiculous shock and sound echo through the house. We panicked and ran downstairs, and to our disbelief, there was a bright red car that had broken through the wall of the house and into the living room. And in the house that we had just completed, the first floor was a complete disaster. What is this? What is happening? We were so stunned by what was happening that I was at a complete loss for words. When I looked over at my husband, he also looked completely shocked. And then when I looked up, a woman came out of the red car. With a completely normal face, she started to say, "Oh my God, that was so scary. I totally thought I was gonna die, but oh my gosh, my car is a complete mess. What am I gonna do about this?" She was saying that and was more worried about her own car than she was about the disaster that was in front of her. In an instant, the anger inside of me was boiling, and I told the woman to stop looking at her car and look at the mess in front of her. But her response to that was, what else am I supposed to do? It's not like I was trying to run into your house or anything like that. And it wasn't a conversation, but that simply wasn't going to be enough for us. Because after all, we had just completed the dream home that I had been saving up for years for, and we hadn't even gotten to live in it for one day. And that home was already broken into such a disaster like this. For the time being, we decided to call the police and have them handle the situation. And on our end, we started calling construction companies as well. After we had them do an assessment, we were told that because the car had broken through the foundation of the first floor, in a worst-case scenario, they may have to rebuild the entire home. And they said that could cost up to $280,000. Of course, my husband and I turned to the woman. We told her that she needed to pay for the cost of damages that she caused. But to our shock, she responded by saying, "What? Obviously, there was no way that I would be able to pay that kind of money. You know I'm just working part-time. And plus, it's not like I purposefully drove into your house or anything like that. You could just think that this was how things were meant to happen today. And you should just give it up already. It wasn't my fault." The two of us were shocked by her response. I couldn't believe what an unreasonable person she was, but I knew that it was pointless to get into an argument with her, so we decided to leave the discussion for a later date, and she left our house for the time being. And then a couple of days later, we decided to get a lawyer involved and meet with the woman again. But when we got to the meeting, the woman said the most outrageous thing. Because our house has been completed, we had already canceled the contract in our previous apartment, and by the end of this month, we would have to be moving out of that apartment. So of course we needed her to pay for the cost of damages to the house that were caused by her, but also a settlement fee for where we live while the repairs are being done. But then the woman had a big grin on her face, and she said, "Yeah, but that's totally gonna be impossible." What's impossible about it? If you hadn't driven your car right into our brand new home, none of this would have happened. Why aren't you realizing that this is all your fault? Because it's so simple. I'm just gonna claim personal bankruptcy. That's what she started to say. When we heard those words, my husband finally lost his temper. And he raised his voice, saying, "You must be kidding me." Not only did she destroy our dream home and the start to our new lives together, she was saying that she was going to claim personal bankruptcy and refuse to take any responsibility for it. And for us, after we had everything destroyed, we simply could not accept that. I had been looking forward to living in that dream home for so long, and I couldn't help but to wonder why this was happening. But then when we looked over to the lawyer, he had a difficult look on his face, saying that if she were to claim personal bankruptcy, there wouldn't be much that we could do. I looked over at the woman and she was laughing and was smiling as though she was the winner in this case. In the end, the conversation didn't reach any logical conclusion, and based on her response, we were not able to do anything about it. I had worked so hard for this house for so long and been dreaming of it for so long, and I couldn't believe that because of somebody like her, all of my hard work and money was about to be wasted. When I thought about that, the tears came streaming on my face. Even though we hadn't lived in the house yet, of course it was a big deal that a car drove into a house in the neighborhood. So the news of that quickly spread throughout the town. But no matter how sad it may be for us, the lawyer told us that if she were to claim personal bankruptcy, she would be able to get out of taking any responsibility for this, and he looked concerned. Both my husband and I had no energy left to fight this, and we were both upset at home. But then one day we received a phone call from the lawyer who said that there was somebody that wanted to meet us. I was wondering who it could possibly be, but when we arrived at a certain private room of a restaurant, we walked in and saw that woman there. However, sitting next to her in the room was an elderly couple that looked very put together, and we were confused. Just as I tried to ask my lawyer who this couple was and what they were doing there, the couple immediately got down on their knees and started apologizing to us.
"We are so terribly sorry that our daughter has done such an unimaginable thing to your home. We cannot apologize to you enough."
From what we've heard, the house had just been completed. And yet after destroying that house, she was trying to claim personal bankruptcy and trying to run away. And we are so sorry and embarrassed that we can barely stand it ourselves.
As it turns out, these were the parents of that woman, and they were living in the town next to ours. However, apparently the rumors of a bright red car driving right into a newly built house had spread so widely that it even reached their town. And because it was such a flashy red car, it didn't take long for people to figure out who the car belonged to. And so, even though her parents initially didn't know anything, they started to receive messages from people that they knew saying that their daughter had driven her car into somebody's home. And on top of that, their daughter was perfectly happy and confident, telling everybody that she was going to claim personal bankruptcy and get away from it, laughing about it. When they heard that, her parents were furious, and they immediately headed over here, grabbed their daughter, and organized this meeting with us. But what shocked me even more was what came next.
As for the cost of damages to your house, we will pay every last penny of it, so please, we hope that you will rebuild your home. And of course, we heard that you don't have a place to live during that time, so we will be sure to prepare an apartment for you.
What? Really? Are you sure? Because the girl said she was going to claim personal bankruptcy, I was really depressed about the whole situation. But in an instant, that whole situation changed, and I couldn't hide my shock. When I asked them, both parents looked at us and nodded their heads. But then, from next to them, the girl started to panic and said, "Hey, what are you guys doing? If I claim personal bankruptcy, then that means we don't have to pay anything. And first of all, where do you plan on getting that kind of money anyway?" She asked them that. Of course, we also thought the same thing, but it turns out that the parents sold the plot of land that they were going to give to their daughter in the future as an inheritance, and they would use that money and give it to us instead. When the girl heard that, she started to throw a tantrum. She started to scream and cry that if they were to do that, her entire inheritance would be gone. But this time, the father became even more livid and turned to her.
Do you have any idea what you've done? These people have been looking forward to their dream house, and before they could even live in it, you destroyed it. Can you even imagine how they feel?
His voice boomed throughout the room. It came with such force that even the girl seemed scared, and she wasn't able to say anything back. On top of that, the mother started to say that they spoiled her too much until now, and that from now on, she needed to learn how to live by herself, and she declared that they were disowning her. The father also said he agreed and stood next to the mother and nodded his head. The girl was so shocked that she went into even more of a tantrum, saying this must be a joke, and that she didn't know how she was going to live, and she tried to cling to the ankles of her parents. But her parents told her to think deeply about what she had done and to figure it out herself, and then deeply apologized to us and left. The woman was at a complete loss, and the lawyer and my husband and I also left her in that room. 1 week later, to our shock, there was $300,000 already deposited into our account. They said that it was $250,000 towards fixing the house and $50,000 for the trouble that they caused from this incident. And as for the woman, after being cut off by her parents, she had to leave the apartment where she was living, and they also took away the car that she had crashed into our house with. According to what the lawyer told us later, that couple had started their own company at a young age, and they had quite the assets. And that girl was the youngest of 3 daughters, and that she was always the problem child. She had always been getting into situations, but this time she crossed the line and her parents had had enough. And that's why all of the money that they had intended to leave for her as an inheritance, they handed the entire sum over to us. Not only that, but that woman was sucking up to her parents and had never had a real job before. They were depositing money into her account every month, but now that they cut her off completely, she had no place to live and couldn't find a job, and she's reportedly crying to her parents and to her sisters, but they've all had enough of her, and I heard that she's become homeless. After that, we had our house repaired, and this time we were able to have it completed for good. We finished importing all of the furniture, and we even set up a blockage around the house so that the same thing can never happen again. We never could have imagined that immediately after the house was finished, it would be destroyed like that, and everything in front of us seemed dark. But I think it was a miracle that the girl had parents that were so kind and did the right thing. The woman is getting what she deserves, but I really hope we never have to experience something like this again.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.